Good evening, everyone. It's Monday night. It's the same question me and Mark ask you every single Monday night. I'm still buzzing off the new intro there, Mark. I'm going to get that in a second. It's what's going on your Evermore YouTube channel. Mark, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
I'm good. You totally threw me there with that intro, mate. What a superb effort. He's kept that a surprise for me, anyone watching there. So that's brilliant, mate. I love a bit of that. We'll love a bit of Bruno in the middle. That's got to be the chant of the season so far, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what it is? Since I heard it, well, it was the clip of the lads on the tube. I haven't had it stuck in my head for the last 24 hours. So
I must admit, before we get stuck in, the picture of that Spurs fan was just fucking superb, wasn't it? The poor bastard. I bet he wishes he waited for the next tube.
Honestly, just the look on his face, you just felt so sorry for him.
Mate, it was like that. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah, look at his face with it. You just wish the world would swallow him up, the poor bastard. Oh, mate. Well, we've got a few things to get stuck into tonight. Obviously, we're buzzing because Newcastle United are mint and we're top 4 in the Premier League. I'm looking for Champions League badges on this jumper here. We're going to be getting them soon enough. But just before we do a little bit of housekeeping, if you haven't already, please click the like and subscribe button. We'd love you to come and join us. We've got a few more subs jumping in recently, so I think we're on about 1912, I think we are. So 1912. So we're hopefully looking to push on to 2,000, be a massive milestone for us. Channel's still really young, all free content. We just love talking Newcastle United with you guys. And we're live tonight as well. So jump in the comments, as most of you always do. It really helps the channel flow. I think we might have a couple already in there. Yes, we've got Ash. Good evening to you too, Ash. Yes, we have heard that gentleman is back on the scene, taking a job that's maybe a little bit easier than the one that he didn't take the first time. So we've also got PK. PK's in the house, hopefully returning from his sick bed. Fourth fucking hell, come on, and the Villa on Saturday, absolutely, mate. And we've got Jimmy in the house as well. Good evening to you too, Jimmy. Well, we're going to get stuck straight into this then, Mark. I think the headline really of the what's going on tonight, and your absolutely ingenious thumbnail, by the way, if anyone didn't pick that up, is we're not afraid anymore, as old Macaulay Culkin would say at Home Alone, mate. And do you know what? Newcastle United aren't scared of anyone anymore. I said it in the post-match, and going to these teams, mate, going to these big clubs, these big grounds, and this team just looks unrecognisable from certainly the team under Bruce, but even the team under a succession of mediocre managers, Mark, in years gone by, where we would shit games like this before we even kick a ball, wouldn't we?
Yeah, do you know? Well, we'll go back to the comments we've had before and just say that if you look at the team under Bruce, and there are bigger changes now than there were sort of last season, but you were going into games terrified of losing. The biggest compliment you can give Eddie Howe is now that you're going into games expecting to put up a fight, expecting to be in it right up until the end, regardless of who you're playing. Under Bruce, under previous managers, it's always been, let's just hold on. Let's see if we can, minimum get a point. And let's hope to, certainly under Bruce, let's hope to nick it late on. And invariably, as soon as the first goal goes in, it's gone to the opposition and that's it done. But under Eddie Howe, it's just a different animal now. And like I say, you're just going into every game expecting to fight for the win and expecting to win. There's no second. We're second class citizens anymore. It is absolutely just rightfully where you are, and the league doesn't lie. Even this early in the season, it doesn't lie. You're winning games now. In fairness, if you look at 3 of the games earlier on that you really should have won, you could be sitting second. And that would not be it wouldn't have even been a shock given the way that it played. So it's huge credit.
Absolutely. Even PK saying there 7 points from the last 3, he expected 3 maximum. It just goes to show even as fans we're utterly in disbelief almost at how amazing this team are. But what I love about Eddie Howe's sides is that even in the press conferences before, I love his press conferences. He's so engaging when he talks. You just stop and listen to everything that he says. Whereas when Bruce talked, you then generally just hand went like to your forehead quite regularly. But just listening to him talk, he's just so confident. You can see that just transmits through his side. He's talking about pressing our game, putting our game onto them, and and being positive and going into the game thinking we can get a result and everything else. And you just think to yourself, fucking hell, like that's all we've been wanting for years and years and years. These succession of managers who have almost come in and said to the group of players that they had at the time, do you know what? If we're lucky, we'll maybe finish mid-table. You know, we'll be a little bit away from the relegation zone. That's kind of where we're going to aim. You know, Eddie Howe has come in, and when you look at that squad, yes, obviously he's added to it. You know, I think we looked at a fantastic stat earlier on. I think we might bring that back up as a note in terms of how much our entire squad costs compared to Manchester United's 3 players. But you look at the players that he's brought in, and it's not just that; it's the players that he's had there that he's made better players. You know, I mean, the 2 best players, arguably, in our squad, probably for the last few months, probably towards back into the season and this season, is Joe Linton and Almiron. And most Newcastle United fans, most of us, had written these 2 lads off. Would written them off. Joe Linton was the worst signing we'd ever made. You know, Christ, when I first started writing pieces, I wrote that Joe Linton was dreadful. Do you know what I mean? I've ate my words, 10 times over.
Your entire thing was it was Joe Seipels, wasn't it? And
it was,
you couldn't get your head around why people still thought. And to be fair, I was sort of in that camp of being a Joe Seipels because I could see there was something there. I didn't know what, but there was just something about him that just made somewhere in there. There's a player, and it's taken how to come in and find it. But he's been excellent. It
took Kieran Clark being utterly shit as well and getting a red card potentially, which made him a great player. But you look at a manager like that who can spot that from a lad in the training pitch, whose confidence has just been absolutely drained out of him by struggling and hearing fans groaning when he touches the ball, to turn him into what he's done with him now, and he's doing it now with Almiron as well. He's doing it with Miggy Almiron. Miggy Almiron's always had, unlike Joe Linton, he's always had something. He's had the pace, the energy, the always just that last final ball, and that you think, oh God, if only he could pass the ball, if only he could shoot, if only he could make the right run at the right time. He's got that out of Mickey now, and you've got to say, forget the spending for a minute, just forget it for 1 minute, right? You've got to give the guy plaudits for that. If he's not manager of the month, Mark, honestly, I'll eat this fucking jumper with a bit of barbecue sauce. I mean, how can any other manager in the Premier League be better than Eddie Howe this month, mate?
I want him to not win it just so you have to eat that jumper now. I will hold you to it. On Evermore, with some barbecue sauce, there you go, sorted. Or ketchup for you. Have to be ketchup.
That's how much faith I've got in Eddie Howe. I'm not eating this fucking jumper. Come on, Eddie Howe. Come on, you're going to win.
Are we going to get into the ketchup and brown sauce argument again now?
We're going to ketchup cam at the Daily Star with the lettuce cam. Just be me going, shit. But I mean, he's got to be, mate. I mean, we've got Villa at the weekend. That's going to really finish October off, right? We're favourites for that. But I know Villa got a new manager now, and it's good for Villa, because obviously Gerrard completely took the train off the tracks. It does fuck me off a little bit when you see players suddenly playing really well when the manager gets the bin, as opposed to being shit for weeks and weeks on end. But that's all footballers, that. But we should really be Villa.
Because I've had this. I had sort of had this thought about Newcastle as well. When you look at how bad some of those Newcastle players were under Bruce, and then all of a sudden they've been brilliant under Howe, and it's down to who they're playing for, and it's down to direction and belief. It's not always about them downing tools. I go back. I sat and watched that Fulham game with Villa last week, and they were the effort was there. You could see them trying. It was just that there was no belief in what they were doing. All of a sudden, Gerrard's gone. Danks takes charge and just gives them some freedom, changes the formation, gives them a little bit of freedom, and look at the difference. They play with a smile on their face, and a lot of that is exactly what Newcastle have done. Play with a smile on their face, believe in what's going on, trust the manager, and the results come.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference with Bruce and Gerrard. I mean, I know Ash is saying there he's not coming to November 1st because he doesn't want to start his game with a defeat against Newcastle. Ash, that's what that is. And thank you very much, trolls. Hit that like button, everybody. Please hit the like button. But yeah, I going to Bruce and Gerrard in these comparisons, right? I think the issue. I mean, I don't know enough about it, but the issue with Gerrard, in my opinion, right, was I think it was too much too soon for him in his career. He should have another season in Scotland. I think he jumped the gun too quick. He took a Premier League job too quick. As a player, we saw managers get sacked left, right, and centre. He knows what it was like. It was okay when he started off well because obviously Villa were wobbling under Smith. Kind of went into that, that really poor stage. He come in, use some of his contacts, get the likes of Coutinho, all out these sexy players. And the Villa fans are pumped. I mean, some of the young pigeon-chested Villa fans are too pumped because they seem to think they were going to win the fucking Champions League, which obviously they never were going to. But I think with Gerrard compared to Bruce, Gerrard too young in his career. I hope he goes off and becomes a better manager like Moyes did and comes back as a better manager. But with Steve Bruce, he was a serial failure. By the time he bombed out at Newcastle, mate, he bombed out every fucking club he'd been at. He'd ruined every club in the same tale of woe, hadn't he, Mark? All the stops were exactly the same with Steve Bruce. If you go back and look at all those other clubs, every interview was the same, every action was the same, every performance was the same. So with Bruce, it was copy and paste. But I think with Gerrard, it's more inexperience, mate. That's just my take on it.
I think so. I think you're right. I think we've got off a little bit off track, but yeah, completely. I think it was a little bit too soon for him to jump. I would understand exactly why he's done it. He did do well at Rangers, but let's not forget that season that he did so well with Rangers, Celtic were atrocious.
Yeah, they were.
So you throw that in the mix, and I think it was a lot of wanting it to work from the club's point of view, rather than believing that it maybe would. And I just don't think his style of management suited the players that were there, and that's been evident. So yeah, but totally different to the way that when we'll come back to Eddie Howe. Look at the difference you make coming in on the back of what had been poor performances after poor performance. And you come in and you coach the players and you give them that belief that just didn't happen under Gerrard. So
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Though, and Jimmy's just saying there. I think it's about being happy with respect. Gerrard didn't come across too optimistic, a bit like Bruce and Numa. So there's absolutely, and just to finish on that subject as well, a little bit off topic. Gerrard also didn't come across as someone who would spread happiness, miserable twat. I think the biggest issue with Gerrard is that you said it as well, Mark. He had that. It was almost the bridesmaid before the bride of the Liverpool thing and all that stuff. And I think he goes into a club like Villa, and Villa are a big club, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these Newcastle fans that loathes Villa, right? These little, fucking Jack Grealish haircut wearing bellends get on my wick, right? Not proper Villa fans who've been through the same kind of shit we've been through over the years, right? I've got respect for that. Richard is the Villa Park Pod, great lad. They're a really good channel. He's a kind of proper Villa fan, I understand where they're coming from, right? But Gerrard comes in that club and he thinks he's a big club man and he's going to teach them how to be a big club. And I think there's a bit of that as well. And he almost bites off more than he can chew. But as Davey says there, Rangers would have him back unbelievably. They probably would, but that's just Rangers for you. They thought he was amazing. But it'd be interesting to see how well he would do against a revived Celtic, because as Mark says there, Celtic were absolutely pissed when he was in charge. And my dad's a Celtic man as well, Davies.
Yeah, I was going to say, and they've been so much better under. Is it Postecoglou that's the current manager?
If you say so, mate.
I think I may have got that wrong. That seems about right. So shoot me down in the comments if I've got that one wrong. But
I'd say when somebody asked me for directions when I've had about 6 pints, Postecoglou was
a couple more of these, and I might not be able to say that.
Yeah, I'm at the coffee's mate, sadly. Designated podcaster tonight, mate. But listen, we've gone off topic. We're going to go back to the world's best manager in Eddie Howe, but just unbelievable performance. I mean, going back to that result, Mark, I think I said this in the post match. I was kind of a bit delirious in the post match. I don't quite know everything that I said. I just kind of went on a little positive burst. I think I had a great comment from Tommy in the comments. I think it was. We just said a half an hour one man show of pure adrenaline, which is pretty much what it was. But for me, that was a real sliding door result. I think that was a result that makes everybody go, "Whoa, hang on a minute! These guys are here. That they're not taking the piss anymore. This is a team we need to be worried about. We need to pay attention to." And to be fair, Conte said it in his pre-match conferences, didn't he? He said, "You need to be worried about Newcastle. You need to be looking at them. They're going in the right direction." He was very respectful about Newcastle United, but when we go there, Mark, when we go to Spurs and we play like that, I mean, listen, I know Spurs weren't great, right? But they were missing some key players. But I'm not taking anything away from Eddie Howe and the lads. When you go to a stadium like Spurs and you play like that, I mean, you've got to take the plaudits there, mate, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what was the score last season? Was it 5?
5-1. 5-1, I think it is. 5-1. Yeah, I think it was 5-1. Yeah.
I think when we did the stats for the weekend, the previous games were, I mean, it was awful to look at the defeats and stuff. I think it was 1 draw in the last 5, I think. But I think as somebody put in one of the comments, look, it's a different team. And it completely is. Yeah. It is whether or not that's the personnel or just the way they're playing. It is completely different. And like I said, just to come back to it, there's no fear about who you're playing. There's no fear about going toe-to-toe with one of the so-called big boys. You know, you marshal Harry Kane pretty well, and there goes the cat again. Just, you know, just to please Ash. There he is.
This is a regular thing now. Cooper is part of the Evermore team now. We just go, especially when we keep winning. He's a good luck charm, Mark. He's a good luck charm. Ever since he's been there, we just keep winning games. So let's keep him in the house.
It's four wins and 5 since he came home. So there we go.
That's exactly. There you go. He's black and white. He's black and white. We love him. But you're right, mate. We did marshal Harry Kane. I thought Harry Kane looked really frustrated. I mean, obviously, Botman and Shearer have been unbelievable this season, but I mean, they didn't look phased by Harry Kane, even so much to the point where he pulled out to Trippier, didn't he, for that corner? I mean, he's a clever player, Harry Kane, and I think he stepped away from Botman and Shearer because he knew he wasn't going to win a header against them two or Bein, and he went for the smallest one of the back four, didn't he, with Trippier? I thought Trippier could have done a little bit better with him. I'm not trying to dig him out, but you know, I just thought he got on the wrong side of Kane, and it was a smart play by Harry Kane, to be fair.
Yeah, look, he's a world-class centre forward. He's going to do that to anybody. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. He's gonna have times where he does manage to get the wrong side of you. There was a bit of grappling going on from both sides. So at one point, I did look. Has he pulled him? Has he got, you know, round the wrong side because he's pulled him away? But he was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. He was, you know, he's a brilliant centre forward, and that's going to happen. And he just played that perfectly. And you know, when the flick on comes in, he just anticipates it so well. And there's not an awful lot you can do about that at the end of the day. But the rest of the time, I thought, bar maybe it's the first 10 or 15 minutes when Spurs looked really lively. You know, when Son Heung-min had a few shots. And then the sort of pressure came from sort of late on. But even then, you never really, or I didn't really feel that Spurs were going to capitalise on that pressure. Newcastle just never really looked phased. And I think if you go back to you know, comment about Botman and Shaw and Trippier, there's a reason why they scored. Well, certainly Shaw and Trippier scored the highest really in terms of their player rating for the game, because I thought they were absolutely excellent. Botman wasn't far behind them. Again, he just has another solid game. Absolutely.
Good comment there from Jack. Brilliant result, changing the face of football. The big 6 might become the big 7 or 6 if we kick out Spurs. The way we're playing, Jack, you might be right, mate. But you know, listen, Harry Kane wasn't the only world-class striker on the pitch, Mark. Callum Wilson was back to his best, I thought, yesterday. You know, we've already talked about you know, the World Cup previously with Wilson. It's all over the media now. It's all over social media now. When Callum Wilson steps on that pitch and he goes back to this conference again, Wilson's a conference player. You know, he's got that wonderful charm and arrogance about him, right? He's on that pitch with Harry Kane. He's not thinking, "Oh, I'm an or Harry Kane." He's thinking, "I'm just as good as you. I'm going to show you today." And that's exactly what he did. I mean, you know, just before we get into the main talking point, which we'll have to talk about again, because it's just, it's got to be spoken about again. But I just thought Wilson's overall game, Mark, I thought was utterly sensational. You know, he led the line brilliantly. He was a thorn in their side. He was a pest. They couldn't deal with him. I mean, that he had Dyer on toast, mate, didn't he? He was absolutely brilliant, I thought.
Well, I think you made this reference in the post-match one. He made Dyer look distinctly average, and I'm in total agreement with you. I think Derek Dyer is a distinctly average centre-back.
Massively.
But that whole defence just looked dreadful. Emerson Royale was awful. Just Sanchez as well just really looked.
Mourinho, remember that? In that document, Mourinho said Sanchez makes him worried. Do you remember?
Yeah, he do. He'll have some good games, absolutely, you know, but he's just, at times, he's just a dreadful defender. And there's an awful lot of those in the Premier League that just aren't very good. Yes, he's above average, let's say, but he's just not at a top 6 level. I'm convinced of that.
No, I totally agree with you. Just Jack's asking the question there: Wilson, Tony, or Abraham? Who would you take? I'm going to take that straight away. Callum Wilson, if he's fit, hands down, in my opinion. Mark? If he's fit and he's firing.
If Wilson could stay fit, I'm sure you take Wilson.
Yeah.
But the fitness thing is a huge doubt, and I would lean towards Abraham.
I mean, Tammy's been up and down this season. He's not been. He started well, I think, and then he tailed off, and he.
I do still rate him. I think Tony is very, very good. I mean, why not take 2 of 3? You know what I mean?
Why not?
There isn't an awful lot of striking options in that squad, really, is there? Behind Kane. Now you've lost the likes of Vardy and stuff. So
yeah. Rashford's been poor. You're not going to play Rashford either. You're not going to go.
Tony's probably your most like for like, because he's the kind of striker that will happily just pull a little bit deeper and play those balls. So he's very good at that with Bueno running on behind him. So he can do that Harry Kane job quite well. But you need something different as well. And I just think a striker that plays on the shoulder a lot like Callum Wilson does, that's what you need to come in and change a game.
I love Aaron's comment there. But it is Southgate, so he probably will take.
Aaron, who do you think the first defender on the team sheet's going to be? Is it going to be Harry Maguire?
Oh yeah. Rhymes with from the Shire, and I did like Aaron's comment before. Get Troston and Madison, get your passport dusted off. Absolutely. But Jody Jackson comment said we did talk about this actually. I think on Evermore, didn't we? I think about Dan Burn going to the World Cup. Mark and Dan were both unsure that he would make it. I think they're probably right. I think. To be fair, Jack, that he's just not fashionable. But as Mark rightly said, he'll probably end up in that provisional squad, won't he, Mark, in terms of the players that are on the periphery. And you never know. It's a long, hard season, and somebody might get knocked before that, and maybe the door might open up for Dan Burn. You just don't know, do you?
Well, you say long, hard season. There's only 4 games left before the break, so it's not that long. but my point is, injuries can happen any time, can't they? Yeah. You know, I mean, it's only one bad tackle away. I mean, look at Varane the other day for Manchester United. That could happen to anybody. You know what I mean? And your 2 main left backs in the England sort of setup. If you're looking at Chilwell and Shaw, have both had injury problems. So you've got to have some backup in that regard. And yes, I know Trippier can play there pretty well, but ideally you want a left footer there, and Dan Burn can do a solid job. I'm not so sure that when it comes to the elite level players that he's quite at that level, but he'll always do you a solid job. He's not going to let you down in the effort stakes, is he?
Just laughing at this Ash's comment there. I've been talking to my missus, have you, Ash? So moving on to the next comment there. I think Nick's got a good point there. Spurs did miss Højbjerg massively. I think
agreed.
He would have. I think our midfield was so full of energy. I mean, shout out to. I thought Joe Willock was great as well. I thought he was busy, loads of energy. Joe Linton was back. It was very best. He was superb, Joe Linton, and it's probably a nice little segue. Actually, moves us into our next player, really. We'll talk a little bit about him before we get into the other bit about Callum Wilson. So, sleepless nights. Obviously, Bruno Guimaraes, our midfield wonder, was playing on fumes. Me and Mark are fathers. I'm sure a lot of you in the comments are fathers. We know what it's like when you've had that wonderful time in your life where your partners gave birth and you're absolutely fucked, aren't you, Mark? Never just driving back and forth from the hospital, let alone playing a Premier League game against the top 4 opposition in London, mate. So credit to Bruno. Even though he was fucked, he was still brilliant, wasn't he? To be fair, mate.
Yeah, do you know? Funny enough, I thought he had quite a quiet game
for him.
Yeah, in his sort of level, when you look at the players he's playing up against, of course. But I think when you compare his stats to the previous week, he only won 4 of 12 duels on the ground. His passing was still 86%, which is great. 6 of 12 long balls, I think, completed. He had no shots on or off target. So that wasn't part of his game at the weekend, but everything else was just effective. And I think he did that job very well and allowed the kind of the movement to be done by the likes of Willock and Joe Linton, who, I thought, like you said, I thought Willock was excellent.
He was.
Not earth-shatteringly good, but he did his job very, very well.
No, I totally agree. Ash is saying there doesn't sleep for 2 nights and he still pulls the Spurs midfield apart. And Jordy Jack's saying that he drove down to Spurs apparently as well, which is unbelievable. Imagine Bruno just sipping back the Costa coffees. What I loved about him as well is when he come off, and as Jimmy says there, what a guy. When he come off, Eddie Howe does that thing when he goes, "Are you okay?" To the player, "Are you okay?" And Bruno just looked at him and he went like, "No, I'm fucked." He just like went, "No, I'm fucked," and he went and sat back down. It was just, even though he's only been here a short time, he's got the grasp of the English language already, which is just absolutely superb. Just a comment there from Jack Mark. If you want to take this one, combined 11 Spurs, Newcastle only Kane and Son get in. I totally disagree with that, mate. At the minute, if you were going to pick a combined 11 between them two, would you get any more than them?
Well, Hugo Lloris getting into that team, is he?
Yeah, easy fucking. After the game he was shocking. He had a Western Superman, that old Lloris.
Højbjerg, yes, possibly. I think Kulusevski, I think if he's fine,
he's a decent player.
I think he's a very, very good player. I wouldn't have Richarlison anywhere near, if he was playing. I think if you go down to the teams that were playing at the weekend, I think you're probably right. Only really Son and Kane are the two that you'd have. But it's funny, isn't it? Because Spurs have had that run where you come out of the Champions League and then they were poor, they changed manager again, and you thought with Conte that they were going to take that step up again, and they look really average again. They just don't look like they're going anywhere. They look like they're stuck in third gear and just can't get out of it. And without probably a few more additions to that squad, they look rank average. I agree. It's an odd one, isn't it? Because you think with Conte's sort of managerial skills that they would take that next step, but they just don't look like they're going anywhere. And they were poor in midweek against Man U, and they were pretty poor again against Newcastle. So it's the Spurs fans will be rightly upset with that, because I think they will want a lot more, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had a good record at home. I mean, they weren't. It's funny because they weren't playing very well, but they've had the conversation been doing the rounds and all the media outlets. I mean, Conte has a way of playing. It's a typical Italian way. It's effective. It might not always be the most sexiest on the eye. It's not, breathtaking football, front foot football, but it's effective football. And that's what Italians do. That's the way they play the game. And it's served Conte very well in his career. But when the results are coming, it's great. But when the results don't come, people start to question them. But I think it's a bit soon to question Antonio Conte, if I was a Spurs fan. Anderson had a knock, apparently, Ash, I think was the crack mark, wasn't it? He had a knock previous to the game, possibly they found it in training, I think, as well, didn't they? And then he just kind of, he was out the squad then, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. It's a shame, actually, because we thought he might have actually potentially started that one. But
I thought he might have done. Yeah.
I guess that's a couple of games now he's missed like that, hasn't he? He's taken a slight knock and had to be pulled, but I'm glad he's being looked after, because he's the type of player that you can. I think previous managers would have rushed back.
So I sound like manager again, is it?
Yeah. No, but I think previous managers would have rushed him back into the squad and rushed him back into the team. And Eddie Howe knows that he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to risk his future by playing him for 20, 30 minutes when he's not fully fit. And I think that's the perfect way to highlight just how good a manager Eddie Howe is.
Absolutely, mate. Just before we move on to the Callum Wilson incident, there's a great comment here from Stu, but we've got to bring this up. But maybe you and the lads might talk a bit more about this on Wednesday, which I will be here for. But Mark will be running the show, probably with the cat riding the side saddle. So I think on Wednesday I might get into this a little bit more, Stu. But it's a great shout. Longstaff has had a lot of kind of criticism, I think, from the fan base, and I think you always get it a bit more when you're a local lad and you come through the way you come through. All these superlatives, he's the next Michael Carrick and all this nonsense when he first come through. It fills people's head full of bubble dreams that the kid's going to be something he's not going to be. But he's a hard-working, fit player that can do a job for the team. And I think, again, Mark, it goes back to the testament of what Eddie Howe is doing with these players. Sean Longstaff was one of the first ones flicked out on the ins and out list by a lot of people. And you look at him now, and he's been sensational, mate, this season, hasn't he? The graft he's put in the ground he's covered, mate. I think he's been brilliant.
Yeah, again, it was another really effective performance. He's had some really good ones recently. Let's go back as far as Liverpool. I think since Liverpool, you've got at least 4 games in that sort of run of sort of 6 or 7 that have just been excellent. He's played very well in the others. He's just done his job really well. He's, we talk about he doesn't have an abundance of pace to get himself out of problems, and we question the fact that sometimes he does take far too long on the ball.
That's one of his biggest faults for me. He takes too long. Yeah,
he does, and his awareness of what's going on around him. There was one at the weekend where he gave the ball away really cheaply to Spurs, who broke really quickly, and that was early on in the game. You just thought, but that's on the other players as well. Just not giving him the shout to tell him that he doesn't have time. He's got to be told, and he can't see behind him, so he needs that support from the other players as well. But I thought he sort of snapped back from that pretty well, and he just seems to be getting better. And again, it's another one of Eddie Howe's that he's progressing again. We've seen him lapse, we've seen him go backwards, and he's just starting to kick back on again. So hopefully, again, it's another one where we touched on this the other week, where you're getting into the realms of getting into Europe, and we might be jumping the gun a little bit. But if you get into Europa League, certainly you're going to need homegrown players. You're going to need players that can come in and play those games every week, and he can certainly do that.
Absolutely. And Johnny Jack's saying there, they're not showing those styles of improvement yet, but they are kind of getting there. But do you know, it's kind of tinged with a little bit of sadness for me, because I love the fact that Sean is slowly getting back to hopefully close to the levels that he was under Raf when he first come through. But I just almost wish that Eddie Howe would come in sooner to save Matty's career, because I'm not sure Matty's going to have much of a chance moving forward. I know he's out on loan at the minute, and unless Eddie Howe has seen something that he thinks is worth keeping on, I think Matty's going to be out of contract, is he not, in the summer? And I think that'll probably be Matty's tee out at Newcastle United, which is such a shame, because he had so much promise when he come in, when Bruce brought him in. To be fair, Bruce, that was probably the best thing he ever did in his whole time at Newcastle, was that debut for Matty Longstaff in that game. But it's such a shame that this manager has come in almost too late to get Matty up to a level that we all thought he could be at as well, mate.
Yeah, and look, where is he? He's at Colchester, isn't he?
Colchester, he's not pulling up any trees or anything. He's doing all right.
He's not really set the world alight so far. I think he's playing well. From what I've read, was a week or so ago now, but I did read that he was doing all right. He's not setting the world alight, but he's been effective. I just don't see really how he comes back and forces his way in, unless he has an unbelievable second half or second sort of 2/3 of the season. Now it's really difficult to see how he earns himself another contract to move on. I think he's really one that will move away.
Yeah, well, hopefully with any luck, if he does part company with us, maybe Newcastle, unlike the old Newcastle in the past, with the likes of Adam Armstrong and that, they might insert a buyback clause. Even Ivan Toney might, insert some kind of buyback clause. So if Matty does go on and become the player we all think he can be, there might be an option to bring him back.
Trouble with that, he's out of contract, so you can't do it.
Very true. Very true. So,
if you sold him, yes, you could do that, but he's going to go for nothing. He's not going to be able to put in anything like that. So
yeah, well, to be fair. Yeah, sorry, just a quick question, mate. Ash is saying we decided he was good on one goal. Obviously, that one goal stands out, Ash. But to be fair to him, I think the couple of weeks after that, he played well against Chelsea, Wolves. He scored against Man United again at Old Trafford. Then Bruce put him in cryostasis. Then he come back out. I remember, Mark, it was City and Arsenal back to back. He was alongside Isaac Hayden, and he looked really good. He was neat and tidy on the ball. Great passing stats. And then he disappeared again. So I think, Ash, to be fair, it wasn't just that goal. And that goal stands out above anything else because of the magnitude of it and everything else. But I think he was a good player in general. But again, just totally mismanaged by, the Baron of Bacon, who thankfully has long since fucked off from this wonderful football club. And hopefully we'll never get another football club ever again. Right, we're going to get stuck into this next category, Mark. I spoke about this on post-match. We've got to talk about this. And it wasn't a foul, is what we're saying, mate. You know, I'm going to come at you first as the resident goalkeeper. What do you think on this, mate? If you're a goalkeeper, has Lloris made a mistake? Has he fucked up, or is Wilson fouled him?
Why does he go to ground? Simple thing. Exactly. Why does Lloris fall on the floor? There's absolutely no need to throw himself to the floor. By throwing himself to the floor, he cost the goal because he could have stopped Wilson shooting. Yes, he would have been out of position, but he could have stopped that initial shot, and that saves the goal. Why? He's only thrown himself down to the ground. He's dived. So in effect, there's an argument you could say, well, you know, it's a yellow card because he's simulating. There is contact. There is a coming together, so that it's really difficult to prove that he's done it, you know, trying to win the decision. But there's no way that impact throws him backwards. No. Didn't throw Callum Wilson backwards.
Well, no, exactly. Not from that image there. You can see. I mean, it's coming together. It's not a foul. In my opinion, I said this on post-match. Lloris has fucked up. He should have cleared the ball. He should have put his foot through it and put it in the stands. If he puts his foot through it, it goes up in the stands, and Wilson catches him. It's a free kick. He gets a free kick. But because he's tried to chest it or whatever he's trying to do past Wilson, and he's just banged into Wilson, the ball's live. That's not a foul. You've just collided into each other, and you fell over, and Wilson's reacted quickly and put it in the back of the net. So
there's no way for either of them to get out of the way in that regard. It is a coming together. There's absolutely no intent from either part to foul the other or whatever. It's just one of those things. They run into each other. It happens. It's not obstruction. It's not Wilson trying to foul the goalkeeper. I'm trying to think who it was on commentary that I watched. I think it was Lee Dixon that I had on. He was saying, well, you start to see Wilson's arm come up. Yeah, because he's trying to protect himself. He's trying to give himself the balance so he doesn't get absolutely clobbered. He's not trying to hold on to him and pull him to the ground. It's just a coming together. And like I say, Lloris is his own worst enemy at that point because he costs his team the goal. And it's another case of Hugo Lloris costing his team a goal. And he's just not the goalkeeper he was. He's passed his sell-by date massively.
Yeah. Well, Wilson actually said before the game, he said, we did our homework and we saw how quickly he comes off of his line. So we knew that was a ball to play, and that's why Sharp played the ball over. Joey Jack's right there. He makes an error and he tries to win the foul. It's not on Wilson to get out of his way. He doesn't have to get out of his way. And I think he said that post-match as well. And to Foley saying goalkeepers say they're underprotected, but really how it seems like in most cases they're overprotected, which is totally right. I did see this, Ash, as well. Paul Robinson said on the ref watch, Wilson's arm being out implies that it's a foul. If you run into somebody, you instinctively pull your arms out, bell whip. No, total bullshit. The ex-Spurs goalkeeper being extremely impartial there, Ash, wasn't he, to be fair? Mate?
Go figure.
So, yeah, go figure. Ain't what about that? As Aaron says there, he knew he fucked up. That's why he threw himself to the deck. What's Nick saying? He tried to head it. I don't know why. I think he tried to hit it with his stomach or something. I thought, Nick, on the replay, Mark, is that what you thought as well? It was kind of like his torso.
He messed it up. You just look to clear it. You don't fuck around with it that far out. You just clear it, whatever means possible. You knee it over the player that's incoming or whatever. You just get rid of it. You don't mess around with it there because you were stranded. And it proved exactly that. As soon as the ball dropped to Wilson, he was just able to loft it back over the top.
Absolutely, mate. You don't piss around. As Jimmy rightly says there, the keepers have more protection than Jeffrey Epstein. So Jimmy's in with another one-liner for tonight. Absolutely brilliant. And as Ash says, it's as 50-50 as it gets, 100%. I mean, I know that Les Ferdinand was in the studio. I was watching the BT. Sorry, BT. I've just seen BT's coming there. Sorry, BT. You get me mixed up there. It was Sky I was watching. And Big Les said that he thought it wasn't a foul. Obviously being a striker, and Jamie Redknapp said it was a foul. Again, ex-Spurs midfielder Jamie Redknapp. It's not a foul. It really is not a foul. Just ridiculous. It just, as Ash says there, he's got cockballs in his eyes. I don't know how you can look at that, Mark.
He read that right. He spelled that right.
Exactly. It is Ash. You can never be too sure with these comments. But I mean, looking at that, Mark. I mean, you're an ex-goalkeeper, right? And you're the first person saying the goalkeeper's been fouled and everything else, right? But I mean, it's not a foul. It's not a foul, right? That is as 50-50 as you're going to get, as Ash said there. And if you're going to start giving free kicks for that, the game's just going to be start, stop every minute of the fucking game, really, isn't it? We're going to have to play for 3 hours to get a game finished.
Well, look, I am the biggest member of the goalkeeper union. I am one, so I'm always gonna stick up for the goalkeepers. But I also infuriates the hell out of me how much protection they get. I never got any of that at all. I was the least protected player on the field, and it just, you cannot touch a goalkeeper these days, and it's just, it becomes ridiculous. You can't even go up for a header with a goalkeeper with there being a bit of a bump and then it's a free kick, and there has to be, you've got to be able to challenge. You've got to be able to, play. They're a player on a football pitch. You've got to be able to challenge them properly. And it just winds me up. But yeah, I go back to it and just say, no, it was definitely not a foul. The pundits that say that it was a foul, I'd like to say have never actually played football before, but they all have, which is really weird. But it's really telling where all of these pundits come from. They're all ex-Spurs. They're all got, they've all got those Spurs tinted glasses on.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, no impartiality whatsoever. It's a great point as well. T for Lee, fucking great finish, Mark, wasn't it? I mean, brilliant. Not even thinking about it, just and the perfect weight of the lob over. Just they give like Lloris a little skim on the top, and it was just straight over. It was absolutely fantastic, to be fair. But I mean, that's Callum Wilson at his very best, as was said. So it was an absolute delight to see. And
let's go back to Wilson and just say, look, give him the opportunity, he'll score a goal. We said that.
Of course he will. That's what he does, because that is what he does, mate. Callum Wilson scores goals. And his goal to game ratio when he's fit, Mark, is right up there. I mean, was it last season? I think he was on par or better than Cristiano Ronaldo was last season, Manchester United. And that goes to show you what the guy's like when he's fit as a goal scorer. So it's just, if he's fit, he's got to get a chance for the World Cup. But we're all happy about the result. A lot of professionals are starting to take note of Newcastle United. Jamie Carragher is very complimentary in the Sky Studios, as was Redknapp, to be fair, talking about Newcastle United's European credentials. But there's always a couple of wankers that try to spoil the party. And we have two of the biggest wankers that you'll ever see in the footballing media world. This has got to be the worst cop show I've ever seen. Holt and Keys. hairy-handed, snobbery bastards. So if you didn't see already, so we had some wonderful comments from these two wank splats going around on social media. We're going to start with your mate. I haven't used wank splat for quite a while, actually. So I just felt poignant at that particular time. So I'm going to let you get stuck into this, Mark. So you take it away, mate. I'll get my finger off the button. So our very own friendly journalist, Oliver Holt, who I've blocked because he's an utter fucking prick, decided to try and get on his moral high horse about our manager, didn't he, mate? Well, tell us what this knob said.
So that was his tweet. I'm still waiting for the latest news on Eddie Howe's attempts to educate himself about the horrors perpetrated by the state that employ him as manager of Newcastle United. We've been waiting for so long now. I presume he's writing a dissertation on it. Just
arrogant.
What does he expect? And look, I mean, what really wound me up was the bit underneath. Newcastle Fan TV put him a response saying, "Look, we'd like to talk to you about it. There's nothing. There's no." No ill intent there. There's just a genuine will to have a conversation. And his response to just laughing emojis just shows the measure of the man. And I understand now that he has actually agreed to go on with him. But that initial response, I would have just told him where to go at that point, because there's just no point in having that discourse with him, because he's not going to change his mind. He's happy to take the money from his own employer that is funded by the same state or has perhaps has they've got offices in that state. So he's happy for his employer to be in that region. But God forbid anybody else actually take any money from Saudi Arabia or anything. For myself, that was my response. So is he as quick to question the manager of his local Sainsbury's on human rights and stuff? The Qatar Wealth Fund is the largest shareholder of Sainsbury's. So, is he going to walk into Sainsbury's and demand that he wants a response on that as well? No, Eddie Howe is not in a position, even if he does go and educate himself, he's not in a position to come back and have the level of of knowledge to hold a lengthy conversation about it. And why would he? He's the manager of a football club. That conversation is for people above Eddie Howe at the club. He's employed by the football club. Yes, they are owned in part by PIF, but that doesn't mean that he has to be able to come out and have that conversation with him. And like I say, nor should he. He is a football manager. At the end of the day, and whether Ollie Holt likes that or not, it's tough. He was there to manage the football side of things. He's not a geopolitical expert, nor is Ollie Holt for that matter. Let's put that straight out. So no, I'm sick of it now. There's another one as well whose name I can't remember, who's just constant tweets, a pure anti-Newcastle and anti-Saudi Arabia.
Delaney? Is it Miguel Delaney?
No, he's another one, but I can't remember the name of the other one off the top of my head. But he's just as infuriating, and he's one that I readily ignore. But that I felt the need to have to respond to that one, because it was just, look, if you're going to call out one, you have to call out another, and he's not. And it just shows a level of hypocrisy, especially when he then is quite happy to go and court them when it suits him.
Yeah, like the Anthony Joshua fight, that it moved into poetry. And he even tweeted something about, does it really matter where the money comes from? And he was talking about Manchester United and Chelsea. These guys got very short memories. Not to mention the simple fact that he's using a platform that's actually funded by Saudi Arabia PIF, which is fucking Twitter, the stupid prick. So just to, he's on his moral high ground using a very platform that's by the people he's denigrating. So just goes to show you what a knob he is. And as Ash says there, well said, Mark, put the Kern back in his box. And I love Sean Taylor's comment, who the fuck is Oliver Holt? It's a bit like a Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is that guy? So that's a superb comment, Sean.
If that's not a chant around the ground at the weekend, then something...
It's got to be. It's got to be.
But how do we get that one going?
Yeah, that's up there with Bruno in the middle. That one, who the fuck is Oliver Holt? But to be fair, I mean, the bit that annoyed me, I think, as well, as you said, Mark, I mean, I stopped reading the guy's tweets because they were just infuriating. But, Newcastle Fan TV have obviously asked him to come on there. And if people don't watch Newcastle Fan TV, look, we don't sit there and tell you not to watch other podcast channels. We love the fact you watch ours. But Newcastle Fan TV is a great channel with a bunch of really hardworking guys who graft their nuts off to put out great content. And they've had brilliant guests on there. They've had Henry Winter on there as well, with I think it was Johnny and Sam, who are top lads, and they deserve more respect than that. They've got 30-odd thousand subscribers on YouTube. They do this as well as doing their day jobs. They don't do this for a living like Oliver Holt does. And for him to laugh at them like that just shows you the pure disdain the man has for other fans. I used to watch him on the Sunday Supplement, Mark, and he wound me up to no end. He was just sitting there arrogant as fuck, with his shirt open and his daft little chest wig hanging out, with his floppy middle-class wank hair, and you just listen to him talk utter shit, and having his chai latte or whatever. You just thought, just fuck off, mate. Like, what are you talking about? He was so arrogant, so just snobby and looking down his nose at working class football fans and football clubs. It really pissed me off. So the only reason he agreed to go on Newcastle Fan TV, I think, is because he was shamed on Twitter for it. I think you actually said as well, Mark, the paper probably told him it'd be good publicity. So it's possibly a bit of that as well. Maybe he's gone back on, but
probably. I think it's one of those where he drives clicks. It is pure clickbait what he does, and that's it. He's very much the talk sport era, isn't he? Of let's get somebody like Gabby or Adrian Durham or somebody who just will say things to be sensationalist, and it's all he does. And to be honest, 99% of the clicks he gets are all fans of other clubs that just want to join and pile in on stuff that they don't understand either. So, I just ignore him. It's not going to go away, but it's just. I guess we've got a little wound up over it, but it's just not worth the time.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, people say don't get wound up and all that, right? Now, I agree with that to an extent, right? But listen, there's nothing wrong as a human being, right? By just taking a big deep breath and going, "You're a wanker." There's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to do that. If you want to call somebody a wanker, right, then go ahead and do it. Take a big deep breath and let it out. Don't let that eat you up inside. It's your God-given right to say somebody's wanker. Whether you say it in person or you say it on social media. Exactly. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. But the guy is just rancid. He's absolutely fucking rancid. There's a comment there from T4D. It'd be interesting to see what he's like on their podcast. Hopefully they'll be able to break down his points well, so he has no ground left. It depends what he's like, mate, because he might rein it in a bit. He might tell them, oh, let's just kind of be a bit gentle around this issue. It's not what I meant. But I mean, it depends what the Newcastle Fan TV lads want to do. I mean, I think I said in the post-match, Mark, I wouldn't want the prick anywhere near our channel. But if we agree to have him on, I'd put him on the spot, as would you. I'd put him on the spot and I'd ask him to explain what is he hoping to get from doing stuff like that. And also I'd ask him, why haven't you not pointed the finger of blame at Manchester United, who've had Saudi investment longer than we have? I've never seen you point the finger of blame at them. So why is it all of a sudden?
Where's this hatred towards F1, who were massively sponsored by
Anthony Joshua fighting over there? The way he wrote about that. But the guy's an absolute prick. But
yeah, it does, and it comes back to the comment I think Jimmy put in before about hypocrisy at its finest. It is because he's perfectly happy to allow one, and he said before, like you said earlier, it says, does it really matter where the money comes from for the football club? Well, yes, I guess it does. And he obviously has a problem with it. So he's changed his tune massively. He's changed his tune because it suits him. So I'll be honest with you, as much as I never want to close the door to anybody to come on and stuff, I would never have him on because I wouldn't have one either. I wouldn't want to give him the time of day for that. And I think that's as much as kind of I want to even discuss him. So unless he does anything really stupid going forward, I just kind of don't want to give him the airtime.
No, absolutely not. Well, we had to bring it up, in this one because it was a topical point, and obviously I wanted to rant as well, which I feel much better at. But so another rant alert coming as well. So obviously Richard Keys is like he's like a world class wank, really. There's a wanker, then there's a real grade A wanker, like the Malfoy of wankers is Richard Keys. He went to wanker school to be as good as he is. So this is what he said about Newcastle. So he said everything connected with that football club stadium stays on Tyneside, but you don't see the first 25 as in the first team men's squad out on the town these days. So what difference would it be making it to London? They're in a plane probably 2-3 days a week, traveling to different places for the family. It, as in London, offers enormously more. The capital is a place where players can lose themselves, where there's a lot more privacy. There's much more entertainment, meals, restaurants outside of the capital city. The facilities aren't perhaps as grand or appealing. So just breaking down a little bit of that. Now, I've got to give credit to Jason McAteer because he was on, I saw him in the studio, and he was in utter disbelief, Jason McAteer, shaking his head at just the arrogance of Keys, talking about Newcastle as a city. Andy Gray looked like he wanted to disagree with him, but then he realizes that Richard Keys owns his soul on a piece of paper, so he's not allowed to do that. So he kind of pulled himself back a little bit. But I mean, we're going to get on to my response from our Twitter page, which is down there, by the way, guys, if you haven't followed us, in a minute, just to put this prick in his box, Mark. But I mean, again, just the arrogance of this fucking arsehole, man. Honestly, like, has he ever spent any time in Newcastle? Apart from being in a hotel and going to the ground and going back home? Has he ever been around Newcastle?
He might have been city centre, but he's obviously never been anywhere into Northumberland. He's never been further west, been to the sea, been down the coast. Look, Northumberland and the surrounding area has some of the best countryside in the world. It is sensational. And his line about players being able to go out and lose themselves in the biggest, most busiest city in the country, and feels that there be an element of privacy there. You can't get much more private than fucking off into the middle of I was going to say wilderness, but the middle of the Northumberland countryside, and just spending the day with your family away from the towns, away from the cities, and just be a normal family. And why would you not want that? It just, I get the pull for some of the younger, generation want to be in the hub of what's going on. But as McAteer said, players aren't out anymore. It's not like you go back to the 90s where you used to. I mean, we used to bump into them all the time in the
yeah, every Monday night.
Exactly.
I remember.
So it's not the same. They are a lot more focused on their health and their fitness and their family and stuff these days. So it just again, it winds me up so much. And it just reminds us of that. There's Jeff Stelling rant.
Yes. Who was that to again? Was that to was it Charlie Nicholas or something? Charlie Nicholas or something?
I can't remember.
Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was. It might have been. Was it Simon Jordan? It might have been Simon Jordan, possibly, or somebody. Possibly. He had a right.
It was just brilliant. And if you, I'm gonna guess everybody's seen it, but if you haven't, go and find it because it's just perfect. And he nails it completely.
Restaurants and meals. Wow, Doyle. I like that. But the comment that we replied back to, Mark's kind of touched on it a little bit there as well. So this was the comment that I went back. You can normally tell when I've taken over the Twitter page because it's just me having a slag off for somebody. But I just said, yeah, you're right, Tricky. I mean, who'd want to live in a horrible region like this? Some of the most beautiful places in the land with any postcodes, you hairy-handed prick. Which is normally how I would sign off a tweet, Mark, wouldn't it, really? But, I mean, Mark's just mentioned it there. Look at some of that scenery there, Mark. I mean, there's the Tynemouth coast. There's Bamborough Castle, the quayside, Sycamore Gap, Hadrian's Wall, famous, bloody Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, beautiful scenery. I mean, we're not just saying that because we live here and we've lived here, all of our lives, but we are so lucky. And you know what? In the pandemic lockdown, and a lot of guys in the comments will live in our region as well. How lucky were we to live where we live, with scenery like that. Our kids were able to go down the beach. People would have to drive 5 hours to the beach living in London and stuff like that. Richard Keys has got no idea what he's talking about, living in his little glass skyscraper in Dubai, probably with, women who wash his knob like Coming to America or something, wherever the fuck he's getting paid for, but Bein Sports. Just imagery. He's not, sorry, mate, but he's not got a clue how beautiful the Newcastle area is, Northumberland, as you rightly say, mate. Durham, beautiful places around here, mate. And this part of the region is some of the best in the country. And it's just disrespectful, as you say. And fair play to McAteer, mate. I didn't see the whole thing. But I give him props for that. Yeah, McAteer was even saying about the private schools. He's going, what are you talking about? There's private schools in Newcastle. What are you talking about? And McAteer would have known lads who played for us. And he would have known what the schools were like, and stuff like that as well. But again, it's just, I think the more successful we get, the more we're going to get this, people like that. I mean,
it's a target, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. There's Stu's saying there, I get annoyed listening to Jordan and Souness on the same show. Funnily enough, just a little side one to throw in here. Souness even turned around TalkSport. Even Souness had to say today that if that's the way Newcastle United are going to play games against top opposition, why can't they get in the top four? I could see that easily happen. And even Souness said that, Mark. That shows you what an impact we're making.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it? If he's had to get to the point where he's got to admit that could happen, then something's going right.
That's a brilliant comment, Deeply. It's so nice that during lockdown, a certain someone drove all the way up here from London just to visit a castle. Absolutely. And get his eyes checked as well, mate. Fantastic. But no, so I think that's just pretty much wrapped up for the topics tonight, Mark. Been cracking as always. Thank you so much to everybody in the comments. As we mentioned at the start, if you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We're going to be back on Wednesday, but I'm not going to be here. I've got the week off. So I'm passing the hosting duties over to the man here. So he is flying solo. Well, I say flying solo. He'll have the boys with him, but he's flying solo in a hosting chair. So make sure you tune in for that live at 7 p.m. Be kind.
Apologies already.
He's going to take my job. I won't be coming back after this. This will be the last time you see me because he'll do a much better job than me, I'm sure. But make sure you tune in for that, guys. And we'll be back with the lads then. And until then, let's keep supporting that team, McCoy United. We'll bring on Aston Villa at the weekend. We'll fancy a bit of that, and we'll get stuck into that on Wednesday. See you later, guys.
Take care, guys.